in celebration of a rare occurrence. This year, Easter coincides with Passover and Ramadan.
So we called on 3 religious leaders to give us a little insight into these holidays and to also share some spiritual guidance.
So this morning we have Rabbi Matthew Gewirtz. He's the senior rabbi at Congregation Temple B'nai Jeshurun in New Jersey. And Canon Suarez is the canon for community engagement at the Cathedral Church of St. John the Divine.
And Imam Idris Abdul-Zahir is Imam of Masjid Ula in Philadelphia. Good morning to you all. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here.
Great to have you guys. Rabbi Matt, let me start with you. You shared that the transition from winter to spring is a good representation of what happens during Pesach, Passover. How come?
It's the Jewish spring holiday, and what I always say is if a Martian came down to Earth about 4 weeks ago, you'd see trees that look so barren you'd think there'd never be life again. Sure enough, last week they bud, this week they're flowering, and next week or 2 weeks from now they'll be full of leaves. I think humbly we are in the same cycle of nature as the trees are. So we've had a barren winter, right? We've had gun violence, we've had ravaging storms, we have polarity that's out of control. But the truth is, just like the trees were once barren and they flourish, we also, after a dark day, can reboot, we can renew, we can be reborn, and we can rejuvenate.
What a beautiful analogy. What a beautiful analogy.
You want to convert now?
Come on over, Chanel. Come on over.
We each get something like a notch in our belt for everyone.
By the way, if you're Jewish, you got to wear a blue suit and a blue tie on this couch.
I'll work on it. Get mine next time.
Canon, for Christians like us, my pastor he frequently talks about it being the most important holiday for Christians, the most important Sunday. How does it unite the Christian faith, Easter?
So I think there's such a diversity of Christian practice, but what we share is the same story. And I think we make a similar journey to what Rabbi Gewirtz just described, that we sort of need the darkness to comprehend the light. So we have a shared experience of joy and rejoicing on Easter, but first, we go through Good Friday, Holy Saturday. We have to come face to face with the ways that we wound our relationships, wound our lives, wound our connection to God, and that we know that we don't always live in congruence with our own values, and we have to go through that journey of recognition to understand just how much the fact that God loves us anyway is something to be happy about.
And Imam Idris, right now you're in Ramadan, the middle of a journey of fasting and understanding. And it would seem to me that it's also about empathy when you start talking about understanding.
Certainly. The physical fast is a fast of not eating, not drinking, not fulfilling our desires. But it also is one of self-restraint. And what that looks like is empathy towards those that, on a certain basis, don't have a guaranteed meal at the end of the day, don't know where the next drink of water is coming from. So it really taps us back into our common humanity, looking after our brother and our sister. And so part of that practice is not just that fast of the physical, but also to restrain ourselves spiritually, and then tap into our common humanity by serving in the community. So we have, a host of events where we feed those that are food insecure, and make sure that we are answering the needs of our neighbors, because ultimately that's what God in service through us looks like, faith in action.
Yes, it does. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's so good to have you guys here this morning. The reality is I remember Easter Sunday growing up. It was like the most crowded Sunday of the year. It was like Easter and maybe, I don't know, not even bigger than Christmas for a lot of us. So for the people who want to say, okay, yes, we're going to do it this holiday weekend, but how can we incorporate faith into our everyday lives? So it's not just this, a few times a year we remember, I've got to be better.
I know this is high drama. Ramadan, Easter, Passover, same time, sacred intention all over the world. But I think if you can't just do it once a year. So I think one is gratitude. I wake up in the morning, if I'm breathing, if I smell, if I taste, if I see, I stop for a second and say, check, thank God. 2 is yearning, where I feel like, and I don't mean yearning is not wanting or needing, it's the deepest yearnings of our soul. What do we really want by way of balance and meaning and purpose in this world? And by making ourselves yearn, we make ourselves vulnerable and open to God. And 3rd, I would say, is that faith is not magic. Everyone thinks that God swoops down and casts a spell on the world and it's all going to get better. Well, look at the world. It hasn't gotten better, but we are God's messengers. We are God's angels. It's up to us with compassion, with generosity, with love, with devotion, and maybe with God as the wind at our back that we, in partnership with God, bring God's dominion here down on earth.
Well said. Faith is not magic. Canon Ava, I know that there's one skill that you feel we could all benefit from regardless of our faith. What is that?
Oh, gosh. Well, I guess it depends on the day. I think we see in the story of these days, the high religious drama of this season, solidarity between one another, shared stories. And particularly in the Christian tradition, we see last night at Maundy Thursday, we celebrated that before the Last Supper, breaking the one bread, sharing the one cup, Jesus washed his disciples' feet. And so there's an expression of humility and that we are connected to one another. We truly are one. And so we have to be present to one another in solidarity with one another, listen to one another actively.
Imam, in this season of Ramadan, what is your message?
Well, it's a message of hope. There's a verse in the Quran that says, verily with difficulty there is ease. And that's with difficulty, not after difficulty, right? And so what that message is that, you know, difficulty, hardships, and trials come to strengthen our spiritual muscle. You know, many of us go to the gym and take, pleasure in taking weights and strengthening our bodies and putting muscle on. But difficulty and trials help us to strengthen our spiritual muscle, to be able to overcome and to be able to see our way through dark times, difficulty in life and challenges. And so Ramadan is an exercise in that. And we see the triumph at the end of the month when we can finally eat again.
It's interesting that each of our faiths end with a meal. It would seem that we could understand each other more if we invited somebody from a different faith.
That's what we do.
To our meals.
We all know how to eat.
Yeah, we know how to eat.
Especially on this show.
It's so great.
I was going to say, what a beautiful, beautiful way to head into this weekend. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for being here.
And that is our show for today.
Our control room. Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.